Before the release of the 2024 Player's Handbook, we got information on other new books coming soon for these new rules. The new Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual, a book on adventures with each of the main dragon types, and we also got word on two brand new D&D books coming out late 2025, The Adventures in Faerûn and Heroes of Faerûn. As we got closer to the releases, we got more information on these books. There are expansions on both the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, sort of like how 5th edition included books like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and Volo's Guide as expansion to the game in general. Think of these as DLC for D&D, totally optional books, but they will add a lot to your games. As Gen Con rolled around this year, we got even more information on these books. I actually made a video kind of covering everything that was broadcast there. These books were officially going to release on November 11th, 2025, and you can get early access online, and some game stores will sell them a little bit early. My local game store is one of those stores. So I got both the Player's and the Dungeon Master's Guide right here. I went with the beautiful variant covers by Dominic Mayer here, as you can see. They're a connecting cover, which is really cool when you open them up. I read both these books back to back, and I'm ready to dive into telling you guys if they're worth it or not. These books have a lot of content, so I'll be splitting this review into two separate videos, The Adventures of Faerun and The Heroes of Faerun. But first up, let's jump into the adventure. Oh, I guess I should probably mention in case this is your first time seeing my channel, but ahoy! I'm the D&D Hunter, a regular human man with human hands, and definitely not a Mind Flayer in disguise with a fake mustache. And not multiple illusion spells trying to make my hands look normal, of course, because they just always look normal. I'm new to the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube community, and I make videos all on tips, tricks, and ideas for your D&D campaigns. This video is a little bit different than normal since it's a review video, so let's dive in. Adventures in Faerûn is the brand new Dungeons Masters expansion set in the Forgotten Realms. Today we're breaking down every single chapter, what's inside, what stood out to me, and what I think of it overall. By the end of this video, you'll know what to expect if you pick up this book, and I'll give a little score at the end too. It's a pretty massive book, thicker than I thought it would be. Filled with lore, quests, monsters, and familiar faces. So whether you're planning to run Baldur's Gate, the Moonshae Islands, or the Calim Desert, this is worth getting. This book is divided into 9 chapters. Chapter 1 is tips on running realms in Dungeons & Dragons, followed by a lot, and I mean a lot of adventures. I'll show you guys in a minute here. Chapters 2 to 6 are on lore of locations, characters, maps, and overall how to run 5 different location settings in this book into your own campaigns. Chapter 7 is a full levels 1 to 3 adventure. Chapter 8 is new magic items, and Chapter 9 is new as well as returning and updated monsters that weren't in the 2024 Monster Manual. Honestly, Chapters 8 and 9 are the only chapters that really feel like the Dungeon Master's Guide. The rest is still really cool though. This video I'll go over each chapter one at a time and give my overall impression, showing what's inside this book, but not everything of course. I don't want to just go through every page here. I'll be showing a lot of pages, I'll be showing some of the art that's in the book, and I'll be talking about the lore that this book provides, but as you can see how thick it is, I won't be telling you everything, just the overall introduction. Chapter 1 is the introduction. We start on an overview of what Adventures of Faerûn is. It's not an adventure path like Curse of Strahd or Storm King's Thunder. It's instead a Dungeon Master's resource guide following locations, story hooks, renowned systems, and lore across multiple regions in the Forgotten Realms. Right away it sets the tone that this is a Dungeon Master's toolbox at first, backed with story potential. We get into a bit more complicated situations and how you as a Dungeon Master can handle these situations, like players who know more lore than you do when you're putting your campaign in the Forgotten Realms, real destinies, something they call epic situations and how you can use them, and little tips here and there. Basically just the usual stuff that you see at the start of any Dungeon Master's Guide, essentially. But suddenly, this chapter gets, oh my god, so much bigger, as you're presented with 51 adventures. They're little, I'm gonna call them pocket adventures. They take up pretty much 1 page each, and they can definitely be used for a full session, whether it's doing a one-shot or just adding this to a part of your campaign. Each of these 1-page adventures is neatly formatted with everything you need. A quick title, a setup, a hook, key encounters, rewards. Usually there's a little map or a visual layout, and some even come with bits of realm lore to tie into your world. They're arranged by level, starting with the first few for level 1 parties, and scaling all the way up to adventures called something like the Dread March of the Bone Titan or Heart of Fire, which are for level 13, which is the highest level that this book takes you. Every entry is tagged by a type 2, things like this is a high magic quest, this is location centered, or this is a deity centered adventure. For example, this really interesting level 2 adventure is focused on the goddess Shar, even though you're just level 2 going into it. Chapter 3 is the start of all the main locations that we talk about in this book. This is the Dalelands, a region of broad forest valleys and rolling farmlands, the breadbasket of the Heartlands. The Dalelands are fiercely independent, but they've long cooperated with the elves of Cormanthor, giving them centuries of heroes. I'm going to pause real quick. I'll be honest, as we go through this book, I'll be mentioning many names, locations, history, and lore of Dungeons & Dragons. These names might be difficult to pronounce at times. I might be pronouncing them wrong. I'm pretty sure this is how you pronounce Dalelands, but as we get deeper into this, you'll see that there'll be a lot more complicated wordings that I might pronounce wrong. So yeah, feel free to correct me in the comments, but I'm trying my best here, and I might even hesitate here and there, but it's all good, right? It's good. Anyways, this book gives fascinating history. Over 1,000 years ago, refugees settled around the Great Elven Forest under a pact that allowed them to live without harming the woods. Even today, 11 Dales exist, each with their own characters and government and ambitions. Through their fortune rise and fall with everything from foreign invasions to internal rivalries. After the history, this chapter really digs deep into the Dalelands themselves. You get a deep look at the people, the species, the politics, and the key locations, all laid out with beautiful maps of the region, including the iconic city of Myth Drannor. And it's the kind of material that lets the Dungeon Masters kind of drop your players wherever you want in here, and you're able to kind of navigate the areas because it tells you exactly what you need to know. That city of Myth Drannor gets its own spotlight, and for good reason. Once the greatest city in Faerun, it was a magical metropolis built by elves but open to all species under Dale's Compact. It fell 800 years ago in official lore timeline to infernal strife, magical mishaps, and fiendish invasions. A century ago, the elves Cormanthor restored the city's mythal, and it seemed ready for the new Golden Age. Until the war with Shadowvar brought the flying city of Thultanthor crashing down into it in 1487. Now, 1487, is that similar to our year of 1487 in real life, where the Battle of Stroke Field happened, which I'm sure every human man and woman listening knows exactly what that is because that is real life history? But no, we actually get a full history of the official Dungeons & Dragons years and events in these books, totally optional to use if you want to follow it or not, of course. The actual map of the Dalelands is incredibly detailed, little overwhelming when I first got to it, I'll be honest. Luckily, the following pages include a gazetteer-style breakdown which is used for all these regions. Essentially, the Dalelands is made of a dozen scattered communities, each called a Dale, surrounded by the ancient forests of Cormanthor. While they share history and culture, each Dale has its own unique character. For example, the Archendale is wealthy and militaristic, while the Battle Dale is led by a dragonborn trying to rebuild after the war. Pretty sure, could be wrong, but pretty sure this war that it's mentioned here is not actually referring to the Battle of Stroke Field. Though maybe they could take some inspiration for that historic event. After the initial overview of each Dale, the book dives even deeper. We get beautiful artwork of locations and maps here and there. I really love this one piece. One Piece? I really love this piece of Harrowdale showing the Tower of the Moon. Some places also give extra maps like Scardale Town, giving a clear sense of scale and layout. Beyond visuals, each area includes key figures, lore, points of interest, and little things that make the location feel well lived in. For example, you find places like the Druid Grove of Shadowdale Town, which could spark all sorts of adventures for your party to go through. After going through all these areas of Dalelands, we get Daleland stories that feature kind of classic hero fantasy as well as dragon lair locations, cultist caves, and conflicts within the land. Perfect for your players to kind of free roam this area. To wrap up the Daleland section, the book includes a Dungeon Master's Toolkit, which is a really handy addition that experts your players on action areas and shapes to reputate the region. It introduces the concept called Dale Renown, showing how locals' attitude towards your adventures can shift over time from being seen as outsiders to the Daleland to eventually becoming celebrated heroes. This Renown tool is at the end of each location chapter. There's also guidance on Daleland bastions, how your players can establish strongholds, plus a small encounter table and some supporting characters that you can work with. And just like chapter 1, this chapter ends with a few full-page adventures set in Dalelands this time. The Tome of Damara for level 3, about recovering a fallen ogre's artifact. Restoring Freedale for level 5, which can lead into establishing your own bastion in the Dalelands. The Temple of Transmutation for level 7, a larger magic-focused quest set in Myth Drannor itself. And that's kind of everything in the Dalelands. A lot of this I skipped, but that's the basic idea of how it's giving you so much lore and information for you to set an entire campaign in the Dalelands. Or beyond it, because maybe you want to travel a bit more north of the Forgotten Realms, where we get to Chapter 3, Icewind Dale. Chapter 3 takes us north to Icewind Dale, a region that draws in desperate and reckless, and anyone trying to disappear at the world's frozen edge. It's a place of hidden dangers and uneasy alliances, where 10 towns stand as one of the last bastions of civilization against its endless tundra. This book paints a vivid picture here of dwarves and Goliaths carving homes in the ice, nomadic tribes following the seasons, and rumors of horrors that wander through the blizzards. The big surprise in this section is a new central threat called Zlan, a being formed from the remnants of 7 liches who once created the Crystal Shard. Zlan now controls minds twisted by the strange materials called Dalelands, and seeks to melt the Underdark beneath the ice. This would unleash the ancient monsters and draws the attention of the deep dragons who may walk among the people in disguise. Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden is one of my favorite 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons books. I absolutely love this area. Winter is my favorite season, both in real life and in Dungeons & Dragons, probably due to it looking like my real world of the year most of the time, being I love that we're returning to Icewind Dale here, so let's see what's new. Similarly to the Daleland chapters, this one starts by introducing the people who call Icewind Dale their home. We get a deeper look into things like the Reghead tribes, which are nomadic hunters who've made the frozen plains their home for generations. But there are other tribes that are all kind of distinct and go around this area. We have the tribe of the Bear, now split into the Standing Bear who cling to tradition, and the Raging Bear who chase the dark power of the Chardalin. A lot of complicated words here. That one's not even that complicated, but we'll see. You'll hear some complicated ones as we go. The tribe of the Elk, which still is the largest and most welcoming to outsiders. The tribe of the Owl, which is led by a tiefling queen called Ilfa. And then the tribes of the Tiger and the Wolf, which are both brutal, both fading and preying on the 10 towers, each just trying to survive. So it's a good mix of familiar Icewind Dale lore and new twists as well. The Reghead feel more active and dangerous without shifting alliances and connecting to the deeper story of Zlan and the Underdark beneath this frozen empire. We also get information on the denizen of the Underdark, which ties everything together, and the Mind Flayers, which are people too, walking into the frozen sleep of the 3 deep dragons, whose names I will now try to pronounce. Guvali, Ender Balathal, Morinitharaxis. I actually think I nailed that. And of course we got the Dwager, whose leader is actually allied with the tribe of Owl to explore the melting depths. In true Icewind Dale fashion, this chapter closes with the perfect chill of the undead giants that still wander the lightless ruins of their ancient civilization deep beneath the ice. Speaking of the Frost Maiden herself, though, the Rime of the Frost Maiden is actually directly referenced in this book here. It actually confirms that Ariel's curse of the endless winter that held back the sun may still linger, depending on your campaign, or it might have already been broken by another adventure, like the events in the Frost of the Rime Maiden. I love this because it shows that Wizards of the Coast is acknowledging that the story exists, and it's giving Dungeon Masters the choice to decide what timeline your game takes place in. If your group did play through the Rime, you can treat this book as a continuation, like a sequel. What happened next in the Icewind Dale? Unlike the Dalelands, Icewind Dale can be a very hard place to survive, and this book really tells us how we can do that. There's a whole section on how to use winter environments, going over hailstorms, howling winds, and underdark psionic fields. There's even a section on how to use jump scares in Dungeons & Dragons, which is really cool. A few of the methods mentioned are stuff that I've been doing for years. I actually go over a lot of these methods in my Dungeons & Dragons horror video, which is actually the first video I've ever uploaded on this channel back in the summertime, because I'm still a new channel. The book kind of goes over how you can use tension to create horror atmosphere, and it uses movies like Jaws and The Thing as examples. As a horror movie fan, I love that this was mentioned. I think it's just really neat. And we get a map of Icewind Dale, of course. The Rime also came with a map, and comparing the two, we can see that overall the layout is the exact same, although this new map has added some different locations here and there. There's new places to explore, and the book tells you what's in these new locations, so it'd be cool if you've done Rime of the Frost Maiden, and now you can see what are these new places. Just like the Dale Town, we get another Gazetteer section, this time for the famous 10 towns of this area. And then from here, just like the last chapter, we go into extreme detail of the many locations here, adding in lore, characters, villains, monsters, secrets, politics, and so on. We get beautiful art of some of the areas and maps of others like the town map of Bryn Shander. The chapter starts to come to a near end with our Dungeon Master's toolkit here, going over 10 towns' renowns and becoming more known. Some Bastion information, some encounters, but to fully end the chapter of Icewind Dale, we get quests again. This time it's 4 though instead of 3. We get the Cost of Warmth on stopping cultists for level 3, Retaking Terror involving exploring Dragon's Corpse for level 4, Duggan's Hell for level 6, and an Underdark focus quest for level 9 called What Wakes Below. Chapter 4, we're getting out of the cold and into the heat with Calimshan, the Land of Wonders. This is a realm full of secrets, competing powers, and ancient lore. Genie clans scheme against one another, merchants plot and sabotage rivals, assassins prowl, and hidden relics lie buried beneath the desert sands. Adventurers in Calimshan can protect caravans, search for mysteries, seek fame and fortune, work with genies, or master powerful magic. From the vast deserts to explore, to the mountains of Murgro's cedars for shipbuildings, the marching mountains hide precious quarries, and the surrounding sea provides pearls, seafood, and thriving trade. At the heart of all is Kalimport, a gleaming city where wealth, prestige, and opportunity meet magic, innovation, and intrigue. Its temples, libraries, and bazaars make it for one of the most vibrant hubs in all of Faerun. One of my favorite touches in this chapter is the inclusion of key terms, little words that help you speak the language of the land, understanding its social structure and immersing your players a little bit more. One of the coolest aspects of Calimshan is the Genie Factories, a living magical undercurrent that infiltrates much of the land. There are 4 major Genie factions to keep an eye on. There are Afrit, which dwell in the desert city of Gazvaka? Yeah. Also known as the Shimmering Oasis. There's the rivals of the Marids that inhabit the coral palace of Moonshae of the sea. There's the Deo, which are greedy elemental earth genies seeking gemstones carried by the city of Olympus Stag and marching mountains. And finally, there's the Jinn, wind genies that float above the steppes of the cloud pavilion of Burin Bur. Each faction has its ruler, ambition, and rivals all summarized neatly in the Genie Factions table, giving Dungeon Masters an easy way to track intrigue and weave these powerful entities into the adventures. There's a section on survival in Calimshan where we get information on traveling from the deserts here. Temperature, wind, a chance of rain which can only happen if the Dungeon Master rolls a nat 20 on the weather table. Information on how sandstorm mirages work and magical sandstorm mirages. Sinkholes and lightning strikes which can create lightning sand, which are super rare, but treasure hunters always seem to seeking it out. Next, I just want to mention the map here. One thing that stood out to me immediately is there's this red line called the Major Road, which has things that seem to be trade routes and covers decent amounts of the Kalim deserts, as well as the northern side of this area, as you can see here. The Calimshan Gazetteer breaks the region into 5 broad geographical areas, each within its own flavor and challenges. We have the northern border, the Kalim Desert itself, the central steppes, the southern coast, and the forests and mountains. We get a map of Kalimport and its information. We also get a really cool view of the Palace of Primordial. We get a lot of lore on its temples, including one temple called the Temple of 1,000, which features rooms on various gods. Then we get information on stories here, characters, lore of the road, conflicts, genie factions information, and all that stuff. Dungeon Master Toolkit is here talking about renowns for genies, as well as sultanas, some encounters, and some Bastion information in case you want to make a home here. This chapter ends with 4 quests again. We got the Calm Crossing for level 3 on crossing the Kalim Desert, Gods Long Forgotten for level 4, which involves that Temple of 1,000 that I mentioned earlier, the Dalabad Curse for level 5 on Ghosts, and the Calimenian Conspiracy for level 8 on literally saving this entire realm. I won't spoil how or why though. Next is chapter 5, which is the Moonshae Islands. It covers the realms of ancient magic, fierce storms, and bold heroes. Here, druids safeguard the land, fae lurk in every forest glen, and the story is one of the peoples coming together to protect their homes and their sacred earth on these little islands. The Moonshaes include 7 major islands and over 100 smaller ones, inhabited by a variety of creatures central to the islands in a nature worship, focusing on the Earth Mother, an embodiment of natural magic. Her power manifests as something called moonwells, sacred springs tended by druids with the help from some bards and rangers and other heroes connected to the natural or fae realms. The Moonshaes are home to a variety of creatures and culture with its own history, values, and relationships to the land. Some examples will be the folk, which are humans of the southern Moonshae Islands, proud and peaceful, worshipping the Earth Mother and value hard work, education, and law. We have the Northlanders, which are known for their longship raiding skills and reverence to the hero god Valkyr. We have the Fae and the Luwire Elves, as well as giants and the ancient kingdom of Ostoria, which predates humans and elves. Giants once built castles on the tallest peaks and brought creatures like Ettins, trolls, and ogres, as well as direwolves here. While their numbers have declined since, giants remain across the islands, sometimes peacefully coexisting with folk and Norlands and Fae. These combination of human, elves, faes, and giants make the Moonshae a diverse, magical, and political dynamic region perfect to adventure and explore in. A fascinating and unique threat of Moonshae is something called the Rusting. It's a supernatural curse, and it is contagiously tied to the Earth Mother. The rusting appears whenever natural resources are misused, or if the Earth Mother is harmed. Overfishing, deforestation, mining, or pollution can trigger this. It's a manifestation of physical and magical that happens to the victim's body, where they develop the thin iron coating that kind of spreads over and turns into rust when exposed to moisture. Over time, this spread causes exhaustion, it's a curse, and eventually transforms them into a creature known as the Rusted. Mechanically, the Rusted gives Dungeon Masters tools for tension and survival challenges, as well as moral decisions, because this can just happen to you if you fish too much, I guess. We get a map of the Moonshae Islands here. It's all these little islands, kind of surrounded by several bigger islands here. It's on the Sea of Swords, by the Sword Coast, of course. Some of these islands are even set to move. There's a section on navigating here using longships, and there's encounters of what can happen when you're moving from island to island. We get stunning art on the Moonwell here, which is protected by, as you can see, druids, and the information on pretty much all of the islands that you would visit. We get stories on adventuring among the Fae, sailing the islands, the politics of the area, the creatures here, like how you can find unicorns, as well as building relationships. The Dungeon Master's toolbox consists of multiple renoms of so many characters and areas, like the Kendrick family or the druids, along with bash information and the Sea of Moonshae encounters. This chapter ends with 4 quests: the Rushdown Well for level 3 on saving a moon well from rusting, Message in a Bottle for level 4 that takes place in a fake castle, Wreck of Silverhand for level 6 on recovering sunken treasure, and the Treaty of Astoria for level 8, which involves a potentially friendly fire giant king. Our next chapter here is on Baldur's Gate.
Blackett blesses me this day. Together, we might survive.
If you've played Baldur's Gate 3, you'll find this all to be very similar. It's essentially how to take the city and put it in Dungeons & Dragons, which has been done several times in other books, of course, but this is now post Baldur's Gate 3, which is canon to Dungeons & Dragons lore. We start with a detailed look at the city itself, a crowded metropolis where trade and corruption go hand in hand. Founded by the hero Baldurun, and now driven by money, crime, and politics. This chapter dives into the city's power structure. We get the Council of Four, the Parliament appears, the Watch, and of course, the Flaming Fist. We also get a lot of art featuring Karlach, who, as everybody knows, is the best girl. She gets her own section here on how to use her in your own games. There's even some official art here showing her with Shadowheart and Astarion in the background, which is just, it's just honestly nice as a Baldur's Gate 3 fan. We get information on the Dead Three, Bane, Ball, and Myrkul, who are hidden within the city. I'll go more into depth on this as we cover Heroes of Faerûn in the next video, because they actually appear here too, and there's a bit more information on what the Dead Three can mean to your own D&D class. The Gazetteer here breaks down every distinct place of this area: the upper city, the lower city, the outer city, and even the sewers, which if you played Baldur's Gate 3 before, you know these sewers are just massive. In Baldur's Gate, characters can become part of a crew, whether through their background, past deeds, or choices during play. Adventurers might aid their crew members in danger, while crew members can intervene on characters' behalf, whether that's thwarting the Flaming Fist mercenaries or providing lead during investigations, like finding those missing clown body parts. This system encourages a sense of community and independence, which can be trickled through the Commoner Crew Renown mechanic in the Dungeon Master's toolbox near the end of this chapter. And we of course get a map of the city here. As far as I can tell, the map hasn't changed from previous Baldur's Gate maps. I tried looking like where's Wallow spot the differences, but it seems to be like pretty much the same here. The story section focuses on urban adventures, hidden villains, and city conflict. You also find renown systems for factions, as well as bastion information for setting up base here. There's a lot of city encounters here as well, of course, and we also end the chapter with 4 quests. Level 3 adventure called Tie to Teeth, which is a murder mystery. Blood Knight for level 4, which is on infiltrating a ball party. Clockwork Memories for level 7 on protecting someone, and the Shadow Parliament for level 9 involving followers of Bane. That's it for all our information chapters, which is the majority of what this book is. If you're not interested in these locations, the book might not be worth it for you, but you can decide based on the next few chapters, which I'll go through right now. Chapter 7 is the Lost Library of Lecantos. Lecantos, I'm going to say. Lost Library of Lecantos. It's a full level 1 to 3 adventure built directly into this book, perfect for starting a full campaign, whether you're in the Forgotten Realms or you can use this for your own kind of start to your homebrew realm. I did a full campaign once in my own homebrew world, but I actually used one of the starter adventures from Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. We started with this level 1 to 3 adventure built into this book here, and then we just turned it into my own world. The Lost Library can be used the same way. That being said, I'm not going to spoil what happens in this adventure here. I'm not going to give you any information outside of what I've already said, so if you want to check it out, you're just going to have to check out the book here. I will just say though real quick, it is really cool. There's some really awesome ideas here for such a low level party. I love it. Chapter 8 is magic items. There are actually not that many here, and I'm a little disappointed in this chapter of the book. As someone who uses the Dungeon Master's Guide primarily for magic items, I was hoping for more, but what we do get here is at least quality. I'll go over just one magic item here since there aren't many. The Harper's Pin. While wearing this pin, you register as that persona when targeted by magic to determine your creature's type, alignment, or location. There's a silver Harper's Pin that can fake your thoughts, and a golden Harper's Pin that gives you a permitted non-detection spell while worn. It's really cool, seems pretty powerful, and it would be perfect for high heavy-end campaigns. The Heroes of Faerûn book, which will be my next video of course, actually goes over how you can join these Harpers, how you can get these pin, and entirely what these Harpers are. Who are the Harpers? Chapter 9 is Monsters. This is also the last chapter of the book. It's a little mini monster manual with about 30 new stat blocks mixing new creations as well as returning favorites that didn't make it into the 2024 monster manual. But since there's only 30 new stat blocks, I'm not going to go over all of them. I'll just kind of go over some that stood out to me, such as the cultists with unique power and roles specific for the city of Baldur's Gate or beyond if you want to. There's also the return of the deep dragons and the spirit dragons. The spirit dragons look so good, and he even mentions that you could call them song dragons because they seem to go back and forth between spirit and song. But I love this design. We got stats of specific well-known characters here, such as Manshun, the infamous evil wizard. Nimble Twites are clockwork soldiers that immediately remind me of the video game Dishonored, which is my favorite video game ever made, I think. A terrifying Polar Serpent, which I just love the name, Polar Serpent, as well as a ton of undead horrors that I won't spoil here, but there's a lot of like undead stuff here, which is my favorite type of monster, so I was happy. And that's the Adventures of Faerun. Overall, I really liked it. It's a fantastic Dungeon Master's resource book filled with story hooks, region details, and ways to tie in characters into the Forgotten Realms. The quests are really fun. I love how simple they are, but you can really build off of them here. The renown system is a really nice touch. The lore feels rich without being too overwhelming, assuming you're going through these one at a time, of course. Keep in mind this is Dungeons & Dragons, so if you have a homebrew desert area, you can take some of Calimshan's ideas and put them into your desert, word for word or updated to fit your world. Same idea if you have like a winter area in your world and you just want to take some ideas from Icewind, you can do that. I do really wish there were more magic items here, since that's what I personally use the main Dungeon Master Guide for the most. More monsters would have been great as well, but for what is here, it's really strong, it's really polished, and it gives you a lot of ideas for homebrew worlds, and it makes me honestly, as someone who primarily DMs homebrew worlds, I wouldn't mind just running a full campaign in the Forgotten Realms. I love for players to kind of travel to each of these realms here, explore the city of Baldur's Gate before traveling to Icewind Dale or going through the Dalelands, going across the sea to Moonshae Islands. Like now, after reading this whole book, I feel like I know so much about the Forgotten Realms more than I ever have before, and so I wouldn't mind running a world through here. It's really, really well written. It gives Dungeon Masters a lot to go off of, and it's just great resource for ideas. Like this is an idea book right here. If you're a world builder, a lore lover, or someone that just wants to expand your Forgotten Realms toolkit, I would say this book is definitely worth it. It's one of the better books that D&D has made in the past 15 or so years. I give Forgotten Realms Adventures in Faerun, the Dungeon Masters expansion, a solid 8 out of 10. I do wish there were more magic items, and I do wish there were more monsters. I feel like we could have made this maybe a little bit bigger, or cut out a little bit of the lore to leave room for more of that stuff, but overall, the adventures provided here all sound really, really fun. The world is incredible, and it gives you exactly what the title suggests. This is how you can run adventures in Faerun. Thanks for watching. My next video will be out as soon as possible here, very, very quick, as we go over the player's kind of guide over top of this, going over new classes, gods, seasons, all the sort of stuff that this book provides, which is nothing like the adventures here, but at the same time, a lot like the adventures here. It's a really cool book. Stay tuned, because that video will be out right away here. And until then, thanks for watching. May your rolls be high and your campaigns be, as this book describes, epic. See ya!